อังคารที่2 เมษายนเช้าวันที่ผมนัดคุณแมทฮันต์กับนักข่าวของฟรานซ์24ที่อยู่ประจำประเทศไทยและภูมิภาคนี้คุณแมทเพิ่งสัมภาษณ์ท่านนายกเศรษฐาทวีสินฉะนั้นผมชวนคุณแมทมาเล่าให้ฟังว่ามีความประทับใจตีความวิเคราะห์สิ่งที่นายกพูดอย่างไรคุณแมทนี่พูดภาษาไทยได้นะครับพูดภาษาอังกฤษด้วยวันนี้จะชวนคุยภาษาอังกฤษเป็นหลักเพราะว่าคุณแมทบอกต้องการให้ตอบเกี่ยวกับประเด็นคุยกับท่านนายกเศรษฐาให้แม่นยำได้แต่ต้องถือว่าคุณแมทนี่พูดภาษาไทยสนทนากันได้อย่างคล่องแคล่วเลยครับสวัสดีครับแมทครับสวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
Thank you for giving me the time to talk about your interview with the Prime Minister and yourself. In fact, what have you been doing in Thailand? How long have you been here? And what are you doing in Thailand and the region?
What am I doing in Thailand? I'm trying to tell the world about what's happening in Thailand. And so I've been around for the last about 9 years. And I have not always been a journalist, but for the last 5 or 6 years I have. And actually today I'm in Cambodia. มาทำงานกัมพูชา
Before you became a journalist, you were in Thailand. What were you doing when you came to Thailand first time?
I think just like it's the same as everybody else. I just came to like have a look and then never left. I mean, there's a lot of problems in Thailand for sure. My life has so many problems, but I feel like you're gonna have problems everywhere. And although Thailand has some issues with freedom on paper, I do still feel more free to be in Thailand.
แล้วเรียนภาษาไทยได้เก่งมากภายในไม่กี่ปีพูดภาษาไทยได้เลยนะ
แต่วันใช่แต่ว่าถ้าคุยกันเกี่ยวกับวิธีไทยวัฒนธรรมไทยไม่เป็นไรแต่วันนี้คุยกันเกี่ยวกับรัฐบาลไทยนายกรัฐมนตรีเพราะฉะนั้น I want to speak English เพราะว่า it's a sensitive issue and I want to show accuracy but also show respect to everyone and perhaps if I misspeak but I would say again I just told you but I would say to the audience today is my birthday and
birthday
วันเกิดวันนี้ and I have a goal this year my goal I already said before that by the end of this year I'm going to be speaking Thai on TV so if you want to call me again in a few months okay
คุณแม่นี่มีก็เรียกว่าปณิธานแน่วแน่ว่าจะต้องฝึกภาษาไทยคล่องถึงขั้นที่ว่าภายในสิ้นปีนี้จะสามารถพูดภาษาไทยออกทีวีได้ผมว่านี่คือความมุ่งมั่นที่สำคัญเพราะว่าทุกวันนี้คุณแม่พูดได้แล้วล่ะพาไปเที่ยวไหนพูดถึงเรื่องอาหารการกินทักทายกันได้แต่ว่าพอพูดถึงเรื่องการเมืองเนี่ยคุณแม่ก็ต้องการให้แน่ๆว่าสิ่งที่พูดนั้นเนี่ยมันถูกต้องแม่นยำตามที่คุยกับนายกเพราะสัมภาษณ์นายกเศรษฐาเป็นภาษาอังกฤษ But where's your home? Where did you come from? America?
My home is Thailand. I think we should leave it at that.
You don't want to talk about where you came from?
My home is in Thailand. If I didn't care about Thailand, if Thailand was not my home, I would not have been on this story. I mean, I feel that like we can just get right into this. I think that the reason that I ended up with Seta is because one of the reasons is because I feel similarly to him in what I noticed as dedication to actually improving the situation. So Thailand is my home.
Okay. And you are working full-time for France24 or are you a freelancer? Do you work also for other media outlet?
I work for myself. So I do have a Thai company. And through that company, I have contracts that allow me to work with a variety of agencies. I know that there's a lot of people who do work full-time for large Western media corporations, this type of thing. And thankfully, because of my insistence upon being independent, I'm able to come and speak to you today. I think there's still a lot of rules in place for people as far as coming to like speak their opinion on like other types of programs. So I work for myself, but I have contracts with various agencies. So if you see any work from me, it's not because someone called me to do it. Usually it's because, no, 100% of the time it's because I have the idea and I pitch it to wherever. However, about France24, I would like to say, I haven't had a chance to really say this, but now the interview has been out for a little while. I would like to say thanks to my team, because I do have a local team in Bangkok, and if it wasn't for them, this could not have happened. My persistence was one part of it, but there was many people behind the scenes, and those people, they work full-time for France24. But I will say I am not French, and I do not work full-time for France24.
Okay. คุณแมทบอกว่าเป็นนักข่าวแต่ว่ามีสำนักข่าวธุรกิจบริษัทของตัวเองมีทีมงานที่ช่วยและก็ทำให้หลายสำนักข่าวอยู่ที่ว่าคุณแมทคิดว่ามีเรื่องอะไรน่าสนใจจากประเทศไทยก็จะเสนอไปสำนักข่าวไหนสนใจก็จะทำให้ก็คือไม่ได้มีสังกัดตายตัวในเรื่องสัมภาษณ์ท่านนายกก็คงเสนอไปให้ที่ France24 และทางโน้นสนใจมันก็เลยกลายเป็นประเด็นที่คุณแมทบอกว่าได้ไปออกที่ France24 Have you done stories for other media agencies before?
Many, yeah. I'm here in Cambodia working with a different agency that I pitched to. So yeah, I have contracts with a few, but also I do my own show, just like you. I just started it about a couple of months ago, but yeah, it's about what's happening in Thailand. And it's a different format, but I really enjoy working for myself. I don't really see myself having a full-time job for any media company because I see so many people working for these media companies, and we'll get into this, but like my opinion that I'm about to say is mine. Whatever I say has no reflection on any of the agencies that I work for, and I'm proud of that, actually.
Your own. And it's because of the technology, because you could go online anywhere, anytime, that gives you the freedom, which previously, journalists didn't have that kind of access or freedom. So we are lucky. You and I are lucky that we are working as journalists, online journalists at this particular time when we are relatively freer than before, right? Would you agree or not?
I would disagree with you, to be honest. I think that the current media landscape is still very much restricted. There's a lot of gatekeeping, and there's a lot of traditional establishment type of things going on where people have to follow the rules of all these agencies that have been here for all these years. And so normally when you would see someone sit down and speak to someone like Suthichai, maybe it would be from AFP or Reuters or whatever, and I respect those people. And I know that they put in a lot of hard work to probably be in the same position as me. However, that I think that the being independent part and presenting myself as such to Suthichai is part of the reason why he went with me. I don't know, but I'm able to offer variety. I'm not just a broadcast journalist. I'm a photojournalist as well. I write, and I only started doing broadcast about 1.5 years ago. So I'm just trying to constantly do a variety because in this day and age, if you're not offering a variety, you may find yourself unemployed.
I know. How did you get to know Kun Sethta? How did you finally get the interview?
So around the time of LGBT Pride Month in June, right after the election, I was at a party with hosted by some ambassadors that I've always kind of worked within the power area. I don't know like how I ended up like there. I mean, I also do like I take pictures of daily life as well. But I had been at this party. I was talking to another journalist. The other journalist was is Thai journalist. He kind of like stopped the conversation and pointed to Suthichai. And I just went to Suthichai as a normal person, just like I'm talking to you now. But I didn't waste a second. I just told him all about me and all the things that I can do. Because at that time, and I had mentioned this before, but I understand that within Thai there was probably some understanding that he would be the prime minister. But as far as the public perception of it and the way that the media was handling Suthichai at that time, I don't think that that's really that would have been the general consensus. But for me, I wanted that story. And I think that, a lot of the Western media that could have been involved in this, they, again, back to the Western media having to be like trapped in these contracts and be the voice of a corporation. They were chasing Pita. Really. And so was I. I was too. But I didn't have the chance to walk up and talk to Pita the same way. So I went to talk to Suthichai, and then just like you, I sent him a DM on Twitter, but you ignored me, and he did not.
He responded. He responded.
Yeah, of course. I mean, of course. Why not? I think that he. I don't know everything that Suthichai thinks. I've said this a million times. I'm not his spokesperson. I don't know. But at that time, I offered him everything that someone in his position could possibly want, which was like, I have a passion for doing documentary. I can do video, I can do photo, I can do a lot of different things. And he never really seemed to be worried about me as a journalist. But the people around him, yeah, sure. I mean, I think it was maybe a bit concerning to be approached by someone who comes from the West, they say, and perhaps someone who may have some kind of agenda against them.
For whatever. But did you identify yourself as a reporter for France24 at that very first meeting? No.
I don't know. I can't remember, but I can tell you that I looked back at the DMs recently, and I had told him that, yeah, I would like to pitch the story of him to France24. But at that time, he was not the election winner. No. And in order to fit into the spot, you have to be the winner. So he was not yet the prime minister. And so I did pitch it at that time, but no go. So then I went back to him and told him that they needed him to win, to be that way. So I offered him photos instead, and he invited me on a trip to tour, but where he's popular around Isan. Yeah, and I somehow that didn't work out. I didn't go on the trip. But what did happen was a couple of months passed, and it was like a day before he was about to be elected. And I texted him. He had given me his phone number, and we had a short phone exchange. And I texted him and told him that, in my opinion, I recognize that this is going to be a big moment for him, and something like along the lines of like, perhaps you could really enjoy some time with someone like me to take your photos because you're going to be the prime minister. Wow. And he didn't actually say, like, he didn't agree with me or brag or whatever that he would be the prime minister, but I really felt that way. And then the next morning I was at Sansiri. It was the first time I met him.
Still at Sansiri at that time, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, at that time, it was also my first time experiencing his security. So, and like all of his private team, like all of that stuff. I mean, that group of people at that time is totally different from now. Yeah, because he's entered the government now.
Let me explain it in Thai a little bit. คุณท่านบอกว่าเจอคุณเศรษฐาตอนแรกเนี่ยยังไม่ได้เป็นนายกไปเจอในงานแล้วก็มีคนแนะนำมีนักข่าวไทยคนนึงบอกนี่นะรู้จักไหมคุณนี่เศรษฐาของพรรคเพื่อไทยเนี่ยอาจจะมีโอกาสเป็นนายกนะคุณแมทก็ มีสัญชาตญาณความเป็นนักข่าวเดินเข้าไปเลยครับแนะนำตัวเองแล้วก็ไม่ได้บอกว่าเป็นนักข่าว บอกว่าเป็นนักช่างภาพเป็นคนชอบถ่ายรูปมีความหลงไหลที่จะทำสารคดี ก็แสดงตนและอธิบายว่าเป็นใครคุณเศรษฐาก็ดูเหมือนจะฟังแล้วก็บอกว่ามาที่จะไปต่างจังหวัดชวนไปคุณแมทบอกว่าบังเอิญตอนนั้นเกิดอะไรขึ้นก็ไม่รู้ก็ไม่ได้ไปแต่ว่าก็ติดต่อกันผ่าน X นี่แหละครับก็ท้ายที่สุดก็เมื่อสัปดาห์ก่อนคุณแมทก็ได้สัมภาษณ์คุณเศรษฐาที่เชียงใหม่ Okay after the interview was done and has it been broadcast on France24 yet?
Yeah. We have it in French, English, and perhaps a couple of other languages. Yeah, but it's mostly available on social media. That seems to be the largest uptake of it. But yeah, it's being broadcast on TV in France.
นี่ครับ
or well everywhere.
รูปของคุณแมทกับคุณเศรษฐา Why did it happen in เชียงใหม่
Suthichai had just been on one of his trips to Europe, and he was coming back to Thailand amidst some criticism that he wasn't paying attention to what was happening here, or I mean in Thailand. So the Time magazine interview had just come out and I had always been following up with him and his team. Like I was really trying to, because the Move Forward Party, I actually was talking to them, but do you understand? Like they ghosted me. I was really surprised, but I had been chatting with them and then eventually they just disappeared. So I just kept trying to follow up with him, and I had seen the Time interview thing, and I felt that maybe since that had been done, perhaps this meant that things were changing as far as how he would talk to the international media. So I texted him that day. And then within, at this point I was tired because I had been working inside of his teams and whatever, and they're still figuring out how to do all of that, how to go from being this private business guy to then working within the government establishment, and so it was a totally new set of people by this time. But I did tell him, like, I've worked with your secretaries and it's just nonstop. It's just it's like endless, it's tiring. But he agreed, and then just a couple of days later I was in Chiang Mai. I think I arrived the day after him. And so, but it was not just that I interviewed him. The thing was, and I don't know, but I feel that one of the reasons why I'm the one that got to do this was because I also worked for the weekend taking pictures of him. I went in the motorcade the entire time. So I toured to, look at the areas where the dust is really, really bad. And
2.5, huh?
Yeah.
That was after or before Thaksin Shinawat went up there.
They were all there at the same time. It was so weird. There was Thaksin was there, Pita was there putting out fires with the.
Oh, you were there too.
No. I wasn't. Yeah, we were all there at the same time. That's the weekend that it happened. But I didn't see any of the other people because I was with him.
I see. So what did you do with the pictures you took of him? You gave them all the pictures? Did you put them on social media?
No, so when I did write a short like a photo story where I did have some personal conversation with the Prime Minister, and I felt that there was some key points that we discussed during the personal conversation that people should know. And he never told me that it needed to be confidential, but there was some things that I just felt that were, important for people to understand, because during the interview that we would have had the next day, which you've seen now, I had already planned to ask him about the more serious issues. So with the pictures, I sold them to some various agencies. And so the pictures were distributed by, Getty Images, blah, 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 blah. They're everywhere. but the intention was to do the job in a variety of ways, and for me personally, as a independent person, an artist, documentarian, I felt that I made it all the way to this point. Why would I not show him that I can do all the things I told him that I can do?
เกิดคุณแม็กก็ตามคุณเศรษฐาถ้าผมพูดอย่างภาษาไทยก็คือว่าก็ตื้อแกก็ตามไปแล้วก็แสดงให้เห็นว่าเนี่ยเป็นช่างภาพด้วยแล้วก็มีความมุ่งมั่นตั้งใจที่จะขอสัมภาษณ์คุณเศรษฐาถ่ายรูปก็ขายให้กับสื่อต่างประเทศต่างๆของคุณที่รูปเกี่ยวกับคุณเศรษฐาฉะนั้นคุณแมทอยู่ที่เชียงใหม่ตอนที่ทั้งคุณทักษิณทั้งคุณเศรษฐาคุณพิธาอยู่เชียงใหม่พอดีแล้วก็แน่นอนตอนนั้นเรื่อง PM 2.5 ก็เป็นประเด็นท้ายที่สุดเนี่ยหลังจากสัมภาษณ์ Time Magazine ออกมาขึ้นปกคุณเศรษฐาแล้วคุณแมทก็เลยขอสัมภาษณ์แล้วผมก็เชื่อว่าคุณเศรษฐาก็คงเห็นว่ามีสื่อ Time Magazine สัมภาษณ์เสร็จแล้วสื่อ France24 ฝรั่งเศสก็น่าจะให้สัมภาษณ์ได้ What is the difference between the Time interview with Seta and your interview with Seta?
Can you be more specific? I mean, I don't think that for me, it seems so. One thing that is so obvious is that in the Time Magazine interview, and Seta actually had provided some clarity on this after the story came out. He had been speaking to that journalist a couple of times, I think. So the article is a summary of that journalist's conversations with the Prime Minister, whereas my televised interview is him speaking. I mean, it's not. We spoke for about maybe 40 minutes.
Okay. So it is a Q&A more or less, while the Time Magazine article was sort of half analysis, half interview, right?
I think it was analysis. I don't see it as an interview. I think that the journalist, there's no Q&A going on in this article. This is not me saying anything poorly about that piece. I think Charlie Campbell and the photographer, they both did a fantastic job. But I do not believe that what was published is an interview. What was published is a summary of what the journalist decided was important, or what time, or the editors, or whoever, and that is what it is. But if you watch the interview, frankly, we spoke for 30 something minutes and we had to cut to 10, but most of what we cut was, or they cut, it was not me, was just extra words. It was not that much. But I don't think that was an interview, no.
ผมถามคุณแมทว่าบทสัมภาษณ์ Time Magazine กับบทสัมภาษณ์คุณแมทต่างกันตรงไหนก็ชัดเจนในแง่ของคนทำข่าวคือของคุณแมทเนี่ยถามตอบแล้วก็ไปตัดที่ France24 ก็ตัดจากคุยกันประมาณ 30-40 นาทีก็ตัดเหลือ10 นาทีซึ่งไม่ใช่คุณแมทเป็นคนตัดทางฝั่งของ France24 ตัดแต่ของ Time Magazine นั้นเนี่ยคุณแมทก็เห็นว่ามันไม่ใช่เป็นอินเตอร์วิวไม่ใช่สัมภาษณ์หรอกเป็นบทวิเคราะห์ตามแนวทางของนักเขียน Time โดยที่การพูดคุยกับคุณเศรษฐาเอาประโยคแนวคิดบางประโยคมาใส่ซึ่งก็ต่างกันนั่นหนึ่งก็ทีวีกับพรินท์ของ Time Magazine 2สไตล์การนำเสนอก็แตกต่างกันนี่เป็นเรื่องปกติที่น่าสนใจOverall,
but also I just to make one more point on this. The photos that I published with the question, I published a thread of questions and answers with the Prime Minister. That is very similar to what happened, or to the format of Time Magazine interview, because the what I made was a summary of our conversation. I did not. Some reporters have contacted me asking me for a transcript. Those tweets are a transcript from me. That's it. So same
ก็คือว่าก็มีลงรูปแล้วก็สรุปประเด็นด้วยนะครับฉะนั้นสำหรับคุณแมทเนี่ยคือคุณแมทจะทำหลายอย่างทีวีด้วยแล้วก็ในโซเชียลมีเดียด้วยฉะนั้นในโซเชียลมีเดียก็เอารูปแล้วก็สรุปประเด็นเป็นท่อนๆซึ่งผมคิดว่าก็สื่อได้ในหลายรูปแบบไม่ใช่ transcript คือไม่ใช่ ถอดออกมาเป็นสัมภาษณ์คำต่อคำแต่เป็นการสรุปแล้วก็เอาโค้ดหรือว่าเอาประโยคที่คุณเศรษฐาพูดที่น่าสนใจมาออก Overall after the interview major questions from I think most people observing Kun Setha is what do you think of his confidence in being Prime Minister? Does he think that he has achieved his goals for the first 6 months? And what is your own impression of him?
That's okay. Well, it's two questions. So then those are two big questions in one. So do I think that he has achieved his goals? I don't think that the Thai party has wasted a second to publicize and cheer for every single thing that they have accomplished. Really, I think even sometimes it's too quickly. They may announce too soon. I think that as far as on issues, for example, of putting Thailand back on the world stage, where it was not for 9 years before him, I think he's done a fantastic job, yes. So a lot of people do not understand his purpose in doing that, but for me, I see that as a big win because Thailand wasn't showing up for a really long time. So as far as that's concerned, I think that, yeah, he has done a lot. And having worked around him, I can tell you that matching his pace is very difficult. He moves fast. And so...
Okay, let me translate before you get too long. คุณแมทเชื่อผมถามว่าอะไรที่เป็นผลงานในความเห็นของคุณแมทหลังจากสัมภาษณ์ก็คือบอกว่าข้อที่1เนี่ยการที่คุณเศรษฐาเดินทางไปที่ต่างๆแล้วก็เอาชื่อประเทศไทยกลับไปให้คนรู้จักเนี่ยตรงนี้คุณแมทเชื่อว่าประสบความสำเร็จและคุณแมทเองบอกว่าติดตามคุณเศรษฐาไปที่ต่างๆหลายจุดเนี่ยบอกเลยว่าบางทีเดินตามไม่ทันบอกว่าตรงนี้ต้องชื่นชมว่าคุณเศรษฐาทำสำเร็จการที่เอาชื่อประเทศไทยกลับไปสู่เวทีระหว่างประเทศ Okay, that's the first point.
Yeah. But also the other point would be like, I mean, to like go from that to why is that important for Thais that want to travel. I mean, the Thai passport is definitely weak in comparison to many others, and he has made it very clear that he intends to make it easier for Thais to go abroad. So I think you saw that with the visa exchange with China. And also he's been quite vocal about trying to improve the visas to Europe. So I think that overall there's been wins. The digital wallet is one that I think people really want, you know, and they say that it's coming. I don't know if that's a failed promise or not, you know, because they're still working on it. But
ข้อ2ก็คือว่าเรื่องที่พยายามมีข้อตกลงไม่ต้องมีวีซ่าเช่นทำกับจีนทำให้พาสปอร์ตไทยมีความโดดเด่นมากขึ้นนั้นคุณแม่ก็ถือว่าประสบความสำเร็จแต่เรื่องDigital Wallet ก็ยังไม่แน่ใจคุณแม่ก็บอกไม่แน่ใจว่าจะทำสำเร็จหรือไม่นั่นก็เป็น1คำถาม Okay, go on.
But the second question was, what's my impression of him?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Can you clarify what you mean by that?
He said he was in charge, right? He emphasized that because there were questions, are you really the real, you know, calling the shot? Are you the real prime minister? Of course, people say that behind you, the big shadow is Thaksin Shinawatra. Did you put the question directly to him and did he give you that, you know, direct answer that he has been giving to Thai reporters that I am in charge. Constitutionally, I am the prime minister, full stop, this sort of thing. Did he give you that emphasis?
Well, okay, again, I'm not trying to speak poorly of any reporters, but I think that if you get the chance to work with the prime minister, it would be wise not to go to any prime minister, whether it's him or someone else, and repeat the same things over and over because I might not get that chance again. I might not get the chance to ask him anything I want. So why would I go to him and talk to him about someone else when I want to know about him as a human being. I want to know about him as a prime minister, but I also know that the government is many, many, many people. So I'm interested in figuring out where is his humanity. What are his values? I understand that people wanted me to ask him, is Thaksin the prime minister? And in fact, I did not ask him anything about anyone else except for himself and his wife, because I was interested in that. But that said, he offered me that information without asking, and he reiterated that he would take advice from other prime ministers or people who had been in that position. So I asked him, would you take advice from Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump was the president.
Why did you mention Donald Trump and not Thaksin? You went all the way to America. You didn't mention the guy who is in Thailand.
Frankly, I'm a little bit bored of the Thaksin story. It's just on and on and on. And also, I was not sitting in front of Thaksin. Had I been sitting in front of Thaksin, I would have asked Thaksin, are you controlling the government? However, I was sitting in front of Suthichai. So for me, I was like very, very focused on figuring out who he is, because for me, I can do that by not just what he says, by how he feels, how he reacts to me. But I asked him about Donald Trump because it was someone different.
Totally different from Suthichai, you think?
But people compare things about Suthichai to Donald Trump, like his sometimes he reacts in a way that people find displeasing or whatever. But I personally find Donald Trump to be like terrible. So I wanted to know how did he feel about that, or would he take advice from Donald Trump? And he gave me a
คุณแม่ถามคุณเศรษฐาว่าถ้าจะฟังคำแนะนำจากโดนัลด์ทรัมป์ไหมพอผมถามแมทบอกว่าทำไมไม่ถามเรื่องคุณทักษิณเราบอกไม่เอาเบื่อละถามซ้ำซากแล้วก็ถ้าคุณทักษิณนั่งอยู่ข้างหน้าก็อาจจะถามแต่ว่าแม่ถามซ้ำแล้วซ้ำอีกเนี่ยก็จะไม่มีโอกาสได้สัมภาษณ์คุณเศรษฐาอีกก็ได้ So what did he say about Donald Trump?
He said exactly what I thought he would say and what he has said before. He said that he would take the advice, but that he would screen it. He would have it screened. Like, for example, but he didn't just say that because it was Donald Trump. I think, and this is the point where I agree with him. If you go back to, you asked me like, how did I meet him? Whatever. When I went to him, there was like the prime minister aspect of him, but also I knew about him before being like a very successful business person, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I felt that I should try to learn from someone like that, because I mean, I'm not a very rich person. I want to be. So why wouldn't I talk to someone who's been successful in business? And so I understand what he's saying. Like, you should not take advice from everyone. You could take advice from them, but perhaps you should make sure that you don't take it all, So that was his response.
คุณเศรษฐาก็ตอบคุณแมทว่าเนี่ยเรื่องถ้ามีคำแนะนำจากโดนัลด์ทรัมป์ก็จะฟังแต่ก็จะต้องเช็คต้องตรวจต้องสกรีนก่อนว่าเหมาะไม่เหมาะซึ่งคุณแมทบอกก็คาดว่าอย่างนั้นคาดว่าคุณคิดว่าคุณเศรษฐาก็ต้องตอบอย่างนั้นอยู่แล้ว You are not afraid of being thought of being too soft to Sethar in the interview. Some Western journalists would say, hey Matt, you avoid asking a lot of questions. You were trying to be nice to him. So
I mean, I think, why wouldn't I respect him? I'm sitting in front of him and he's giving me his time, which is like a very short amount of time. So I understand that I've seen the comments. I read social media, people would say, why don't you, same when I met with the person before him, people would say, well, why don't you call him a name, or why don't you demand answers about certain things? Well, my response to that generally, and I don't normally say this like or reply at all. But I would say if what you think we should do is sit down in front of the prime minister and insult him, there's a reason why I got the job and you didn't.
บอกว่า
It's about respect.
บอกว่าที่ผมถามว่าก็อาจจะมีนักข่าวตะวันตกอาจจะบอกแม้ที่คุณสัมภาษณ์คุณเศรษฐาคำถามมันแม่อวยไปหรือเปล่าเนี่ยเอาใจมากไปหรือเปล่าไม่เห็นถามไอ้คำถามหนักๆที่ควรถามแบบตะวันตกเลยเนี่ยแม่ก็บอกเอางี้ผมก็อ่านคอมเมนต์ต่างๆนะในโซเชียลมีเดียเกี่ยวกับคำให้สัมภาษณ์คุณเศรษฐาให้กับผมแต่ขอบอกอย่างนี้ว่าถ้าผมนั่งลงข้างหน้านายกรัฐมนตรีแล้วก็พูดสิ่งที่ค่อนข้างจะเป็นการเหยียดหยามเป็นการจงใจที่จะทำให้โกรธเนี่ยก็ผมก็จะไม่ได้สัมภาษณ์นายกอย่างที่คุณไม่ได้เพราะถ้าคุณพูดจาต่อหน้านายกรัฐมนตรีลักษณะที่ไปดูถูกเหยียดหยามเขาคุณก็จะไม่ได้สัมภาษณ์นายกเหมือนที่ผมได้ so you think that is the reason why Sethar gave you the interview that you be nicer than the rest of the Western journalists
No way, not at all. I don't think that it was because I was nicer. The questions that I asked him were not necessarily nice, in my opinion. I asked him about the humanitarian crisis happening in Myanmar. I asked him about air pollution. I asked him about the junta like overthrowing the government in 2014. I mean, there was nothing nice in there. However, I would say that Sethar has always treated me respectfully as well. I mean, there's been a couple of times where he had to show me how I need to work around him because I didn't know. I've never done work like that. However, I have no reason to disrespect the prime minister. He hasn't given me a reason to disrespect him. And I also feel that now that I've spoken to him personally, as well as what you see, there's, I don't think that a lot of what we see in the media is true. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about his values, and I don't agree with him 100%. But I feel just like how we're in a situation that you can easily see in the West, where people are so divided into like you must be in one camp or the other. And for me, I'll say again, I gave equal effort to Move Forward Party, and also I talked to many politicians, like not just these two. I would do the same, and so I think that if a journalist approaches someone like this with showing their bias, why would he want to work with them?
I see. ก็ถามตามแมทว่าเนี่ยเรื่องที่ตั้งคำถามนี่ดุเนี่ยถามให้ผมก็บอกถามคุณแมทบอกผมถามเรื่องปฏิวัติเรื่อง PM 2.5 เรื่องพม่าผมก็ถามนะฉะนั้นไม่ใช่ว่าผมไม่ถามคำถามที่ต้องถามแต่ว่าผมต้องการแสดงความเคารพในความเป็นนายกรัฐมนตรีและท่านเศรษฐาก็ให้ความเคารพผมฉะนั้นไม่มีเหตุผลใดๆที่ผมจะพูดอะไรที่ส่อไปในทางที่ไม่ให้ความเคารพแล้วก็ผมก็พูดคุยกับทุกพรรคก้าวไกลผมก็พูดจากับนักการเมืองต่างๆก็ขอสัมภาษณ์เหมือนกันก็ไม่ได้มีอคติหรือไม่ได้มีความชอบอะไรพิเศษเป็นส่วนตัวผมก็คิดว่าคุณแมทก็พยายามที่จะชี้ให้เห็นว่าไม่จำเป็นต้องถามคำถามที่มันก้าวร้าวที่ดุดันก็สามารถได้คำตอบได้he responded to some comment after the interview about PM 2.5. He said, of course, he realized the seriousness of PM 2.5. He has done his best, and he's still working on it. Did you find his answer to your question about PM 2.5 a bit uncommitted, non-committal, or?
Not at all. Not at all. I felt a lot. Okay, so I think I'm gonna add one additional question to this, which is people have asked me like, how do I know that he's not lying to me, right?
Yeah.
So did I feel like, of course, if you are someone who believes that he is doing propaganda or just like neglecting the crisis of the air, of course, that's what you would that's what you would think. But for me, having been there, we were there because of a crisis. And I heard him use the words crisis. And when I heard him speaking to the people, like we were with a lot of MPs from his own party, as well as governors, et cetera, et cetera. He did not deny that it's a crisis. He has said that the one thing that is true though is that he has said that the PM 2.5 issues from the like hotspots have decreased this year since last year. But I don't think that the party necessarily could take ownership of that yet. I mean, he's only been there for 6 months. So maybe next year, let's have a look and see if the work that he's doing now and is effective. But I would say that the only way that we can do that is if we keep our mind open to the fact that he's actually trying to do it, you know. And for me, I feel that yeah, he cares. He and I understand about this tweet on X, whatever, where he was at dinner, right? He was eating and saying, some people took that way out of context. He did not say that there was no problem, not at all. If you go back and look at it, he was saying that my understanding was that he was saying where he was sitting, it had improved for that moment, but he never neglected the reality of the air. How could you? When we were like sitting there, I couldn't even see across the river.
No,
I mean,
yeah. So
I know, I don't think that he's neglecting it at all. And here's the thing that's very important to know is I don't prefer him over anyone else. I try to be balanced. There's certain things that we really don't agree about, seriously. But on the issue of PM 2.5, I would say yes, he cares. And yes, he's doing his best. Yeah.
คุณแมทบอกว่าเรื่อง PM 2.5 คุณแมทเชื่อว่าคุณเศรษฐาจริงจังแล้วก็รู้ว่ามันเป็นวิกฤตนะก็ไม่ใช่ว่าจะปล่อยปละละเลยแล้วก็สำหรับคุณแมทนั้นก็ไม่เห็นด้วยกับนายกหลายอย่างแต่ว่าแล้วก็ไม่ได้คิดว่าชอบคุณเศรษฐาเหนือคนอื่นไม่ได้มีอคติหรือมีความชอบเป็นพิเศษก็ทำหน้าที่ในฐานะคนตั้งคำถามในฐานะคนข่าวต่างๆ What do you think of his view of the world? Do you find him quite versatile, quite broad-minded about Thailand's position in the international scene? Did you get to all those points about Thailand's foreign affairs?
Yeah, we did. We talked about investment, of course. I mean, he's strong on economic points. So I mean, I feel like you could give him any issue, whether it's PM 2.5 or another thing, and he would first go to economy. So yeah, I think that what I said earlier about how I feel that he's increasing Thailand's presence in the world by going and doing those things is important. So I think, sorry, what was the specific question? I got lost.
His worldview, you know.
Oh, his worldview. I mean, he was educated abroad, you know. So and he has spent a lot of time abroad. And like you and I spoke English to him. A lot of people have said that he didn't do any interviews with foreign media because his ability to speak English. That's not true either. He speaks English quite well. But it requires perhaps, I don't know this, but I believe that it requires a certain level of comfort for him to sit down and talk about these things. But I think that he wants to increase the visibility of Thailand in the world to attract investment to the country. I don't know if that is the best way. I'm not sure. I'm not an economist, you know, but I think that his worldview is that he wants Thailand to be back, or maybe if it wasn't before, he wants Thailand to be more everywhere. You know, that's what you see in the push for soft power, for example.
Right นะก็ถามคุณแม่ว่าที่สัมภาษณ์ นายกเศรษฐาภาพของนายกเศรษฐามองนโยบายต่างประเทศของไทยมองโลกยังไงคุณแม่บอกว่าก็ชัดเจนว่าเป็นคนเรียนหนังสือจากต่างประเทศแล้วก็มองโลกในแง่ที่ค่อนข้างจะทันเหตุการณ์โดยเฉพาะเน้นมาทางเศรษฐกิจซึ่งก็ชัดเจนครับว่าคุณเศรษฐาจะดึงทุกอย่างเข้ามาสู่ประเด็นเศรษฐกิจเพราะว่าต้องการจะผลักดันแล้วก็ทำให้ประเทศไทยกลับสู่เวทีระหว่างประเทศ Well, the foreign minister calls the effort to put Thailand back onto the world stage as we are back on the world radar. I think that's what he meant, right? Sethai is trying to tell you that Thailand is now back on the radar of the world, back in business.
He never told me that. I think maybe he told that to someone else, but he didn't tell me that. Instead of telling me what, like this way, like Thailand is back, or that Thailand is already getting all of this investment or whatever, he told me more about his hopes and his goal. So I think that like if you look at the time frame, 6 months, we all should be able to understand, but we cannot because the internet is not a real place all the time. That 6 months is no time. So I think that in order to really evaluate the efficacy of his work, we have to let some more time. We have to let him work more.
Sure.
I think. Yeah.
Sure. It's only 6 months in office, and it's what a honeymoon period, but it doesn't really have any honeymoon. Wednesday tomorrow, he would be grilled in Parliament, in the House of Representatives, by a debate. The opposition has raised a debate, and we will see how he responds. Thank you very much, Matt, for this chat this morning. Getting to know your views and your experience with the Prime Minister, and we hope to talk to you about Cambodia when you come back with the coverage of Cambodia. Thank you again for meeting.
ขอบคุณครับ
สวัสดีครับ
Thank you so much.
ครับ